Dear participants, hello everybody. Let's start our second day of the Biregional gathering of the local communities and indigenous peoples platform. And first, on the beginning of our event, we start by our traditional invocation, and I invite Marina Adzel to the scene to open our day. Please.
Hello. Я буду говорить на русском языке.
I'll speak Russian,
говорить на родном языке.
and I'll use my mother
О
tongue
том, чтобы совершить
about
благопожелание
to
тем, кто находится и
wishing
участвует
well
сейчас
to
в этом
all the participants of our event.
Г. Анда хасали. Г. Гой несли. Аяканди бисуксу. Аяканди бараниксу. Эйвезду. Тесиду. Баяргади. Эвандунисали. Аяканди. Okay, Aya. Thanks.
Thank you for Marina for our invocation and opening our day. And I want to ask participant, please, can you sit more closely to the scene? Yes, for you. Ask. And before we get to the official program for the day, let us first go through some housekeeping announcements, especially for the benefit of people who are joining us today for the first time. And let's go. This, look at the slide. You see that the co-leads of collective approach 2 is Agrafena Kotova and Kitisat Azam Sadat and me, Vyacheslav Shadrin. This biregional gathering of the LCIPP is organized under the Baku work plan of the LCIPP. Facility working group members Azin, Agrafena, Kitisat and I co-leads the implementation of this important work under the overall guidance from the Facility Working Group of the LCIPP. My fellow colleagues and I will be co-moderating the gathering this week. Yesterday, Kitisat and me, and today me, and next days. Next, go to next slide. You can use your interpretation. The first channel is the English and the second channel is Russian. And another simultaneous interpretation is available in English and Russian. Please, if you don't take your headsets, you can take it before our auditorium. When you make a speech, please speak at a reasonable pace so that the interpreters can capture and convey your message easily and accurately. The Biregional gathering is being webcast on YouTube. You can find the link on the event webpage by scanning the QR code on the screen. You see this QR code. Preparatory documents are also available on the event webpage. Your contributions during the biregional gathering are important for shaping and informing the implementation of the LCIPP work. The Facility Working Group will consider all inputs received, but these contributions may not necessarily reflect the relevant mandates of the Facility Working Group. For in-person contributors, we invite you to take the floor when co-leads open up the floor for intervention. We will bring the microphone to you to ensure everyone has a chance to speak. For virtual contributors, including our guest speakers, we invite you to use the raise hand functionality if you wish to take the floor. Please turn on your camera if the bandwidth allows when you speak. Feel free to use chat functionality through the meeting. Kindly stay on mute when you are not speaking. We kindly ask all participants, particularly those who are registered for other Climate Week events, but have not yet registered for the LCIPP Regional Gathering, to complete and submit the registration form by scanning the QR code below. You see this QR code on the slide. There is a free Wi-Fi in the venue. The network available is UNFCCC Climate Week free on Expo 2012, and no passport needed. And now about UN Code of Conduct. The UNFCCC Secretariat is committed to enabling events at which everyone can participate in an inclusive, respectful, healthy, and safe environment and be treated with fairness and dignity. The Code of Conduct applies to all participants at the UNFCCC event, that is, all persons attending, regardless whether in person or virtually, or involved in any capacity at a UNFCCC event, including in its setup or delivery. By attending or being involved in any capacity at the UNFCCC event, participants agree to abide by the Code of Conduct. You see this UNFCCC Code of Conduct on your screen. Now I want to speak about LCIPP care principles. Building on the UNFCCC Code of Conduct, the Facility Working Group adopted a set of LCIPP care principles at its 14th meeting. We kindly ask all contributors to keep this principle in mind throughout your participation in the LCIPP Biregional gathering and the Climate Week in general. Speak with care, share from lived experience, and welcome all voices with openness, humility, and respect. Listen with care, engage in active, respectful listening to understand, connect, and build mutual trust. Practice awareness and humility by be mindful of our presence and influence in discussions, creating space for others to contribute and be acknowledged. Ensure inclusive and accessible participation. Foster an environment where everyone can participate meaningfully by providing interpretation, cultural understanding, and other accessibility measures as appropriate. And value and bridge diverse knowledge systems. Recognize that addressing climate change requires collective wisdom and all forms of knowledge. Thank you. And let's go to our provisional agenda. Next slide, please. Yes. On the screen, you can see the overarching agenda for the regional gathering. Today, we'll spend the morning continue to focus on the regional gathering. In the afternoon, we'll have an opportunity to help enrich the discussions at the regional NAP Expo and the Climate Week event focusing on financing implementation of the Belém Gender Action Plan at the national level. And let's now take a closer look at today's agenda. Yes. We begin with reflections from day one and then open with leading culture, which we see our open ceremony by Mrs. Marina Adzal. After that, we continue with Model 2, where we'll hear from you on regenerative community-led solutions, stewardships, and practices. After that, we have coffee break. And after coffee break, we will dive into Model 3, from lived knowledge to actionable recommendations. We will begin with a scene-setting presentation before we welcome our guest speakers from the UNFCCC constitute bodies and work streams. Following the lunch break, you will engage in activities at Climate Week, as mentioned earlier. It's the regional NAP Expo and financing implementation of the Belém Gender Action Plan at the national level. And now we start our reflections. Day one, you see the microphones on our hall. And I invite any reflections from day one of the regional gathering. Please raise your hand to take the floor. Who wants to say something about yesterday, about our first day working? Maybe you have some suggestions or some ideas or thoughts about yesterday. Yes, please go. Oh, they gave you a microphone.
Uh, Thank you, everyone. As I am Shamim Beg, belongs to a mountain area of Pakistan. Yesterday, that was my first day. I was curious about some topics and some sessions that has to be understand. But after the end of the session, I came to know about the new peoples with having first-hand experience with climate change from different areas. And I have already shared my experience and activities we are working right now with my colleagues. And at the end of the session, I came to know about some of emerging issues right now we are facing in our communities, and that these same issue were facing my colleagues in their communities, and they were already working on these initiatives and to resolve this problem in future. So I get to know about some steps and some initiatives to follow up in my communities. So I hope that after come back to my community, I will try to implement those initiatives in my community as well, so that I could provide a better solution for my community and inheriting to the resolving the issues. So thank you so much.
Okay, the next speaker, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so very much. I think yesterday was a day where we acknowledged, where we heard, and where we collectively accept the realities that we face. Climate change is not the buzzword, but also a very lived realities. And I think the most encouraging and appreciated movement that we indigenous local communities comes together and share the collective struggle together to contribute in the climate change adaptive policies along with the localization. I think it was a very interesting to hear, along with a bit sad stories that it was very challenging situation across the globe, and I think it's a time to adapt and react collectively. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And yes.
Um, Thank you, everyone. As of yesterday's, for me personally, coming from a context of Afghanistan and also working in context of Canada currently, I think many of those stories yesterday reminded us that those local initiatives, those knowledge that the locals has in different contexts, those knowledges are really important to be kept, and also to be those to be part of the solutions. Moving forward, I think it's really important that we should consider in such contexts, in most of these contexts that we have heard in these stories. So we see that many people the climate change issue is like not separate from other issues like education, access, inclusion, financing, and resources. So it's important that we should consider climate change as a point to also consider helping these local initiatives, funding communities, and also solutions are coming from within those communities. So it's important that we should bring up those voices into the global conversation and also give them a platform so they can continuously engage with international organizations and also work within those their own communities for sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you for your inputs. Anybody? Yes, Marina, please.
Спасибо большое, Вячеслав. Я впервые
Thank you
участвую
very much,
в таком
Vyacheslav.
мероприятии.
It's my first time that I'm participating in this
Очень
event,
благодарна
climate change event, and I'm
за то,
deeply
что
grateful
имела
to the
возможность
organizers
рассказать
for this opportunity to tell about my own
о
people
своем опыте
and
работы
about my experience
в нашей местности.
working under our local conditions. To me, it's extremely important
Глобальный мир сегодня
because
меняется.
today's global world has been changing, the climate has been changing, and when I see that here
Это
speakers
очень
talk
хорошо.
about very urgent and pressing challenges, it's excellent for me because I have an opportunity to acquire experience for sustainable development of my own people and to see interesting initiatives which I then can introduce and use locally. So once again, thank you very much for this opportunity to see all this and to work with you on the same platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marina. And last two person, and after that you.
Thank you. I think we had a very good day yesterday, and my reflection from yesterday that the local communities and indigenous peoples are really the custodians of the nature. We are protecting our land, our forest, our water. Even we have been facing lots of the challenges caused by the climate change, and we are trying to solve the problem at the local level, but it looks like very small dots that in different communities, peoples are doing the solution. But from the linking with the UNFCCC or Climate Forum, how could we link these dots together so that we could have the greater impact on the global level? So the answer, the solution is LCIPP. LCIPP could play the greater role linking this knowledge to fight against the climate change problem. But the question is how to recognize all this knowledge by the so-called scientific or science and technology. In the same time, how could we leverage the financing dedicated to the local communities and indigenous peoples in the climate solution? So this is my reflection. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And the last speaker.
Hi everyone, I'm Alfian, an indigenous diagnosed youth from Indonesia. So one of the reflection that I'm highlighting from the yesterday sessions about how the cooperation can be done when it comes to the collaboration with the other partnership between indigenous community, within local community, also to the private sector. But the question is on how we can make sure that the fair transition processings between the government, the private sector, and the local community and indigenous people itself. As the example, like yesterday, we have some of the collaboration on the national park system, how to make sure indigenous people can stay in their national park, but the national park still be there. And at the same time, there is some of the example from the Philippines, how they do cooperation between the local community with the indigenous people. So I think that is the highlight that I on my reflection on how the cooperation can be done, not only how we on indigenous people itself, the collaboration itself. And the second thing, yesterday we also learned that we have on the very same struggle and the climate reality that hitting us, that this space yesterday make me realize that there is a lot of the collaboration can be done as the indigenous people from around the world, and we can share as the ecosystem of the exchange resource on that way. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your inputs. And we gather into these meetings because we have tried to find solutions of all the problems which you raise in your speeches. And now let's continue our work. Model 2, from observed impacts to regenerative community-led solutions, stewardship and practices. And now I invite participant of sharing circle 3 to the scene. And these are Andrei Stetsenko, please come in, Bharati Kumari Patak, Markus Basumataru, Nicholas Mudjah Ason, and Vyacheslav Taryashinov. Sorry if I don't correctly spell your name. Andrei Stetsenko, Bharati Kumari Patak, Markus Basumataru, Nicholas Mudjah Ason, and Vyacheslav Taryashinov. Please take the place. And today we have this equipment to manage your slides, your presentations. And I give floor to the first speaker, Andrei Stetsenko. Please, your floor is yours.
Thank you very much for organization this side event. I will speak in Russian. Будьте добры, мой слайд можно?
Please, the first slide. I sent my slides. Please, slides. Выведите.
Еще раз большое спасибо всем организаторам.
Once again, thank you very much to all organizers of this marvelous conference. I would like to share experience of the Altai Forest and Climate Project that is being implemented in Russia in the Altai region. It was registered by the UNFCCC, and it received scientific academic backing. 6 universities have worked on the project on the sequestration of carbon emissions, and it was registered in the UN register and also in the Russian register. 10,000 hectares were leased for 49 years, and now we have about 6, or even more than 6 million trees on this territory, 4.7 million tons of CO2 confirmed, profitability of the project 40-50% annually. And at the moment, the carbon emissions market cabin emissions trading market doesn't work in Russia, but the project has been registered by the structures of the Kyoto Protocol, and we can say that this model is functioning. It's a very good mechanism to fight deforestation and to restore forests in Russia and neighboring countries. Why? Why? Why and what slows down traditional reforestation? Now, first of all, we have a shortage of labor in those remote regions, and it's rather difficulties linked to planting trees, high planting costs. In Russia, it's about 320,000 rubles, therefore around 3,800 euros per hectare. And it's rather expensive, and not many entities can bear that. Also, we encounter very low survival rate of plants, and it's very difficult to scale such projects. Therefore, our solution was to use drones and other modern reforestation techniques. We are working together with foreign entities. We have a consortium with universities of Finland, Japan, France, and Central Asia. And how drones and artificial intelligence can change their such reforestation projects. First of all, the processing of data, selection of land plots where the trees can be planted. Also, drones and LiDARs that can help creating 3D models and microsites. Also, AI can help intensification of point-to-point planting of tree species. So we plant seeds and hormones, and in a very using precision techniques. And when we shoot this bullet from a drone, we shoot it to the depth of around 3 centimeters below the surface, and this enables us to decrease the planting costs, and even automated using tractors or manual planting could never be as intensive and efficient as that. Now we are transferring our experience, sharing our experience with Central Asia. We work with Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. They face similar problematic issues, although the climate is a bit hotter because they are to the south from our region. And we are trying to use their climate and nature conditions that are similar to the Altai region. We are implementing digital platforms for reforestation programs, projects, and we are busy with the implementation of reforestation, transborder reforestation projects. It's beneficial for all parties involved, and when we see high prices in the European Union as far as the CO2 markets are concerned, and we would propose to unify the markets and create a single market for carbon emissions trading. And Therefore, we would be able to implement carbon and reforestation projects worldwide.
Our speakers takes only maximum 4 minutes for your presentation, because today it's a very energy work. And now I give floor to Bharati Kumari Patak.
Good morning, everyone. Respected chair, I'm Bharati Pathak from Nepal. I'm working the Women's Rights and Resource Network and the GFLCC Steering Committee member also. I would like to very warm welcome in this our session. So I'm going to present about the small cases, not more focused to the like a product base, especially policy level changes to the Nepal also. So I'm highlighting to the role of the women in community forestry in the restoration and biodiversity conservation part, especially case of the Nepal and before the around the 35 years, there was the very gray land. Ghanshyam also presented yesterday, and actively engaged for the local communities, indigenous people, and especially rural women. And now is changing to the greenery also. We have a 46% forest area covered in Nepal. So women has a huge role for the plantation and degraded and the open land. So rural women protect the natural forest and the plantation forest also. And all women are actively engaged in the forest management and the fire line construction development and the forest fire control. They has a huge role playing in the community level, and water resource protection in the forest community forest users group, and biodiversity conservation and sustainable harvesting for the forest resource also. Especially women are actively engaged in the early morning to till evening and midnight. So collect the forest fire, collect the forest product and the grass and everything. So they are protection and management the all natural resource, land, forest, and the water and the other products also, and the carbon storage through the natural resource protection and the existing so that forest area. And this is a very huge contribution for the rural women. I'm sharing here achievement for the forest sector women participation. So I'm highlighting for the cases for the women representation, because women has a huge role for the forest protection, natural resource protection, and the conservation. After that, and the all civil society and community organization raise the voice, and our government make a policies for the rural women friendly policies, and the community forestry guideline highlighted for the mandatory representation for the 50% women in the community forest users group. This is the big achievement in the and the role model for the Nepal, and I think maybe is globally in the community forestry users group. Now increasing the women's leadership in the community forest users group, I have a data for the 2000, till 2023, but more than 100,000 women are in the leadership position in community forest users group, because our policy and every document giving to the priority for the women, because if women are not interested protect the natural resource, and we cannot change to the protection and conservation and the biodiversity and other natural resource also. So this is the very important achievement I am highlighting here. And this is the different pictures, like women are engaging in the different types of the community-based enterprise and livelihood supported program, and forest and non-timber forest. And the young women also very interested come to the livelihood supported program also in the community level, and the biodiversity conservation and the forest fire control. And some are challenges, and today we are discussing in solution, but solution and challenges goes together. And we have women have a limited land ownership, so that is the big challenge we are facing, and low participation in decision making. So community forestry, there has a 50% women in the vital post and vital role, chairperson, either secretary and other, but other is not. And lack of the women-friendly technology and limited access for the innovation and unrecognized for the unpaid work. And all women are, local people are unpaid and voluntary working in the forest protection. And the way forward and implementation the sustainable forest management and local level, and promote the women-led enterprise and strengthen the LCIPP implementation, localization climate issues, and increase the awareness and the capacity building program also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Baraki. And now floor goes to Marcus.
Hello. Yeah, you just next slide, please. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marcos Bosumatari. I belong to Bodo indigenous community from Bodoland, Assam, Northeast India. So this is my first time, and I think from my community, I'm the first one to represent about this kind of international event. So I'm going to start with introduction. That is Bodo indigenous community. Already I have said that we are from Assam, and we practice like number 2, please, slide number 2. Regenerative practices. So Bodo communities follow regenerative practices, approaches that enhance the health of ecosystems. Sustainable agriculture, organic farming, soil and water, biodiversity. These practices contribute to carbon sequestration, improve soil health, and long-term food security. Next slide, please. Okay. Community lead solution. Local governments. Actually, local governance, we have 3 institutions, and that is, one is BCDC, Village Development Council. That is, within 6, 7 villages, it becomes a Village Development Council. And next is like village committees. That is, there will be one headman. And again, there is one more that is called Joint Forest Management Committee. So with these 3 institutions, we are all the time solving all the, suppose we are making decision, including all the elders, women, and even youth. So next slide, please. Okay. Stewardship of land and forest. The Bodo worldview emphasizes responsibility toward nature, social relationship with land. Land is not a commodity, but a source of identity and life. This stewardship strengthens ecosystem resilience and biodiversity conservation. Because of time, I'm just making a little bit short. So indigenous knowledge and cultural practices. Next, please. Yeah. Culture and indigenous knowledge and cultural practices. Traditional knowledge systems are central to climate resilience. Weather and seasonal knowledge guiding agriculture cycles. In village, our elders say, often our elders say that forest speaks, a river remembers, and the wind carries messages. And a farmer, a Boro farmer, for instance, he does not rely on calendar because he knows he can read the flowering of some certain trees and the sign of birds, their movements of birds, and the behavior of some insects. By knowing all these, their characters, the farmers, he knows when to plant, when to sow seeds. Next, please. Role of women in youth. Women are the key custodians of seeds, food systems, and ecological knowledge. I still remember my grandmother and mother, how they used to reserve some seeds to plant for the next season. So I'm just making short. Now number 7. Slide, please. Yes, climate action contribution. These practices contribute to climate adaptation, climate mitigation, ecosystem, strengthen community resilience, and social chosen. Challenges. Next slide, please. Challenges, we have limited access to financial and technical resource, land insecurity, and encroachment in tribal or indigenous areas. Land is insecurity because in our state or country, we, the indigenous people, we have got protected land. And there are some laws that is called Forest Right Dwellers Act and again Assam Land Law Act. According to those laws, suppose those are not indigenous people, they cannot come and stay in their particular, their protected areas. They cannot enjoy the land rights. So, like that, many, those are not eligible, those are illegally encroached people are already occupied our land and we became like minorities in our own land. So this is our big challenge. Always we're trying to fight government illegally, but still we couldn't succeed for that. So next step, please. Key message. Okay, recognize and integrate indigenous knowledge in climate policies. Support community-led initiatives with direct funding. I'll not go through all. Now conclusion, I'm going to come. The regenerative community-led solutions of the Bodo indigenous community demonstrate that sustainable and just climate action must be rooted in local knowledge, collective stewardship, and respect for nature. Empowering indigenous communities is essential for achieving global climate goals and building a resilient future. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And next speaker, Nicholas, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, my presentation today is really emphasize not on the climate change impacts, but very much on the promoter of this climate change. So my scope of uh, presentation would be how, first of all, who promote the climate change that impact the indigenous people and livelihood. And secondly, of course, how do we as indigenous people in my country try to mitigate that as a solution? And how does solution look like in our people perspective? So that's why in my slide here, just to get everybody aware that I'm coming from the Borneo Island of East Malaysia, and the middle part is the map of Borneo. So I'm very much on the purple. Yeah, so the orange territories belong to our friendly country Indonesia, and we are actually divided by political or colonial masters. In fact, in the island of Borneo, we are very harmonious. We call our genus people there as the Daya is a generic term for it, but of course we have many tribes. So for the region, my region, the purple we call it the Sarawak state. Yeah, so geographically it's a really, I mean, we have been under many colonial masters. So our right very much depend on who are the political master of the days. So our right are very much detected not by law, but by politics. So I hope you know what I mean. So who control the government today, and you have to follow that. And this government will never follow the real interpretation of the law. So otherwise, we have no issue at all. So you see in my slide, you see this, what happened in our country, really, the trigger to this really like, our government, well, the policy of the government promote a monoculture plantation. So very big, very large, and very much on the right side, you see the logging are very much rampant, and the oil palm plantation are very much really encroaching into the territory of the indigenous people. Despite there were protests, you see the middle interest, but the law doesn't help. It is, I mean, not that doesn't help, it's not relevant. It is the politics of the day that makes sense, that can really remediate this thing. And of course, as indigenous people, the norm of the day, that's why my title is from lock up to stewardship. In order to control your territory, you have to be a very, very timid so-called land defenders. And lock up is your secondary home beside your own home. So if you can't face that, then you lose your territories. Yeah. So, and of course, again, in terms of, I mean, that's why for the indigenous people, if we lost our territory, we've lost our right, then we are nothing in this world. That's what my quote here says: life is our, land is our life and our blood. If we have no land, no forest, we don't have life and we don't have blood. And of course, the indigenous people in my country react toward this ecosystem as our primary supermarket, where we can collect everything that have been given by the merciful, the God give it to us. So we protect everything. So if you lose everything, then we have no life. And of course, what are the mitigation that we practiced in our countries. So the basic thing, if you don't control your territories, you are no person within that. You can be the squatters on your own land. So our initiative really is, besides being radical, we have to use our judicial platform. So we went to the court in order to take our right back, in order to make control. Yeah, so and then again, well, if after we went to the court, then again, if we are in control, what then? If you are not within your territory, then the next day somebody else will coming in to control your territory. That's why first thing, in order to control, when you have the control, in order to manifest that land belong to you or your family or your tribe, then we have to demarcate our areas to be specific, so that we don't have to point fingers, my land from here to the horizon. No, we have a very specific territory. That's what we do, what we call it the pathology mapping. And of course, beside that, we also, in order to control, we have to collaborate. You cannot be alone. No, you have to collaborate with people who are sympathetic with you, who knows your tradition, and hence we collaborate with many institutions, and even including our local institution. And of course, no. Yeah, I mean, of course, in order to do that, you have to do your, at least in order to be within your territory, I mean, you don't merely have to be there. Make sure that your territory give benefit to you. That's why we do so-called entrepreneurship activities. So I think that's what I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicholas. And now to Vyacheslav Teryashinov.
Good day to you, my dear friends. And first of all, I would like to sincerely thank the organizers for the opportunity to be part of this biregional gathering. And my name is Vyacheslav Teryashinov. I'm from Buryatia, a region located in Siberia near the beautiful Lake Baikal. I study at Buryat State University to become a teacher. Each year, our university graduates around 20 teachers of the Buryat language and literature. This is not just a number, it's a commitment and a guarantee that Buryat language will continue to live. Although I'm still a student, I'm already working with younger generations. I work as a camp counselor, and through this role, I help children to connect with their cultural identity. I completed a special training program for counselors at my university, which gave me both practical skills and confidence. In summer camps, we create spaces where children can learn about their heritage through traditional dances, games, and various activities. These are not just activities, they are living intergenerational practices that carry knowledge, values, and identity from one generation to the next. This work, in my opinion, directly connects to one of the key functions of the local communities and indigenous peoples platform. I mean strengthening and sharing traditional knowledge and practices. What we do with children is part of this broader effort. We're keeping knowledge alive, not in books, but in people. However, we definitely should use all available sources. So, for instance, just this April, an important cultural milestone took place in Buryatia. There was a presentation of the first children's encyclopedic atlas, Me and My Buryatia, Mini Buryat Oron. This book is published in 2 languages, Buryat and Russian, and introduces children to their native region from nature and geography to history, culture, and peoples. This book reminds us that our motherland begins with our home, our street, and the beauty of our land. The lake, the mountains, the forests, the steppes, and the rivers. What I think is that our future depends on how we educate the next generation. That's why I'm proud to contribute, even in a small way, to preserving and passing on our culture. And what I want to say, listening to your stories here has deeply inspired me. Now I see that climate change is vital area of knowledge for the children. Your stories give me new ideas and new motivation to continue my work as a youth leader and a camp counselor. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Vyacheslav. And now we go to reflections. Maybe 1, 2 questions or comments, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Co-Chair. So my question and comments also regarding the carbon sequestration in the first speaker. My question is that have any legal framework for this activity that the community get the direct benefit from the carbon sequestration? I want to ask that, let me clarify that in 2019, in my country, I was engaged in Red Plus activity. So this time I see that when the government is developing the policy regarding the drivers of deforestation and forest degradation. So that's I'm linking, yeah. So this time the government is indicate that the zoom cultivation is the one of the key drivers for the deforestation. So anyhow, we negotiate with the government, and the government put is the not is direct, it's indirect drivers. So why actually I'm sharing it, because in our context that a lot of forest is managed by the community, and also in our country that government is trying to count how much the carbon is conserved in the forest. So when I see your the story, then I realize that have any kind of legal framework that community can get the direct benefit by the carbon trading or carbon market. Thank you.
Большое спасибо за этот хороший вопрос. На примере
Thank you
российской...
very much for your excellent questions. Using the example of the Russian Federation, I'd like to explain. We do not have developed legal basis, in particular in 21 and 22. A lot of legal documents have been accepted that allow to develop this carbon market, and the our Ministry of Economy plan for activating this regulation by 2028, right, under a very strong pressure on the part of the industrial sector. These plans have been moved to 2035. So we have a certain mechanism to reforestation. This is a compensatory reforestation that is unrelated to the climate change. For example, when we have electricity or power lines and the forests are cut, the area has to be reforested, but it's a very small area or small areas, because as a result of cutting and wildfires, about 10 million hectares disappear in each region. So we have a legal basis, but they do not work. We need to turn on the market mechanism so that the living forest could be valued higher than the cut forest. Thank you very much for your question.
Time for reflections. And now let's thank our participants of sharing Circle 3. And now I invite the participant of sharing Circle 4, Nya Tapo, Полина Шулбаева, Ramona Dumenitio, Sagda Senmi, Satech Chakma, and Valeria Guznenko. Sorry if I wrong spell. Nya Tapo, Полина Шулбаева, Ramona Dumenitio, Sagda Senmi, Satech Chakma, and Valeria Guznenko. Do you have enough seats? Oh, I ask bring one more. And the first speaker is Nya Tapo. Please use only 4 minutes. Only 4 minutes. Nya Tapo.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, this is not the updated one that I've given. Okay, thanks. Yes. Oh, not sure. I'll do that. Okay. Greetings, everyone. My name is Nia Tapo, and I come from indigenous Idumismi community from Arunachal Pradesh, India. For us, our relationship with nature is not something that we have learned. It is something that we have grown up. It shapes our identity, our responsibility, and how we have understood the world. In our community, there are strong cultural values and taboos that have guided us in how we have interacted with nature. There are species we do not hunt. There are places we do not disturb. And it's not because of the enforcement. It's because of out of respect. For examples, we have considered tiger as our brother. And species like hollow gibbon are also protected through this belief. So conservation for us does not come from rules imposed from outside. It comes from relationship and responsibility. But today, we're facing a different reality. What we have protected for generations is now being seen differently. The forest, the wildlife, the land, which for us are home, are unfortunately seen as a resource for outsiders. Our challenge is not the lack of solution, but it is the lack of recognition of the solutions that we have. Because the same system that have protected our biodiversity, like our cultural relationship with species, now are being used to justify external approaches, such as conservation through control and enforcement. And again, we are not against conservation. But we believe that conservation should not come through guns or restrictions. It should come through culture, community, and responsibility. At the same time, there are increasing pressures from large-scale development like dams, which are affecting the ecosystem, and we have carefully sustained over generations, and it's disturbing now. So for others, it might be a development, but for us, it has directly affect our identity, our land, and our way of life. Next slide, please. Okay, so in this response, we have created solutions for our community. So we have made a model of community conserve area. It is a CCA, and it is also known as Elopa Itugu Community Eco-Cultural Reserve. So this is a community conserve area where the conservation is led by the people themselves. There is no government interference. It's all controlled by the people itself. And which make this so powerful is how the community is involved. Because the former hunters are now working as the community rangers. The same forest they once depended on, youth are actively working in research using tools like camera trapping, documenting biodiversity, and studying species such as hollow gibbon. So the knowledge is not coming from outside. It's growing from within the community. And the same thing is that this model is also helping us to create our livelihood. The women and community groups are leading ecotourism initiatives, hosting visitors and sharing our culture and knowledge. Through this, young people are becoming researchers, guides, and conservation practitioners. And this is not just a conservation, because it's more like a governance. It's more like a livelihood and identity altogether for us. What I also want to highlight is that this model is sustained from the community itself, like I have told it earlier. We are not dependent on any external funding from outside. And this allows our works to work without any disruptions. Okay, so since we are out of time, I would just like to end it that what started as a challenge now on how to protect our land has also led to a solution for us. And I believe that this is something that every community can practice in their own ways and with their own context. So if anybody is interested to know more about this, more about the community conserve area and how we work about it, can please reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nia. And next speaker is Полина Шулбаева.
Я буду говорить на русском. I will speak English. Можно презентацию, пожалуйста, включить?
Please, could you please share my presentation? Show it on the screen, if you may. Thank you very much. My name is Полина Шулбаева. I represent the indigenous people of Selkupa. This is the Tomsk Oblast, Tomsk region, and Vasyugan territory. These are the biggest swamp area in the northern hemisphere of our planet. Here you can see a picture of one of our representatives, Daria Igoreva. She is from my own people, from my own territory. Unfortunately, she's not here today because she was detained. She was arrested. To us, for Selkups, for the Selkups. The challenge of natural resources is understanding and understanding harmony between people and nature. I can share with you our winter practices for both forest and rivers. And today I'd like to focus on the forest because Selkups, if translated into Russian, are people who live in the taiga, in the forest. And here, this is the example of the healing chaga mushroom gathering and how our people participate in managing their territory. I'm not going to talk about governance in general. I'll give you a specific example. For the Selkups, for us, the birch tree where chaga mushroom grows occupies a central place in our culture and in our local beliefs. It is a symbol of light, life, mother, woman, and that is why we exercise this very careful attitude toward the birch tree. And this tree is actively producing oxygen and absorbs compounds. So where it grows, the climate is milder, and due to a very quick growth, this tree very efficient, very effective in cleaning air, and it contributes to healing. And it is on this tree the healing chaga mushroom grows. We use it as an antiseptic. When a baby is born, it is washed by a solution prepared from chaga. And in our region, we gather the chaga mushroom during the winter time when the tree is asleep and when the mushroom concentrates the maximum amount of healing substances. And we also can detach the mushroom without touching, without damaging the tree. So you can see in winter, everything is black and white, and you can easily identify the mushroom. And because we live in the swampy area, in winter, we can find the distant locations where the most useful mushrooms grow, the oldest. This is how this mushroom looks from inside. In addition to that, we can exercise community monitoring because we gather chaga that grows for 10, 15 years. We monitor our territories and we monitor the quality of trees, the quality of the chaga mushroom, the number of trees, and we can detect invasive species if they appear on our territory. We can monitor if there are climate change occurring there, and the data are collected, are documented, and then they can be used, and we transfer them to the research governmental institution acting in our region. I understand that my time is running out, but as a local knowledge holder, I'd like to say that it is our responsibility to transfer this knowledge to at least one generation. So as a knowledge holder who is sharing with you, I'd like to say that for our mere participation in this event, we can be arrested. And the last slide, yesterday we mentioned it, we talked a lot about the dire situation of the local knowledge holders. They are being persecuted by our authorities, and now at least 22 people representing local and indigenous communities, including myself, we are being persecuted. Illegal charges have been brought up against us because we are uncomfortable, since we are the voice of our people, because we that is why we are charged, we are persecuted, as it happened with my two colleagues whose photographs you see on the screen now. And I'd like to focus to say again that we as indigenous people have the right to share our knowledge and to speak up.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll just use the green button. Okay, great. Thank you so much, because this is the first time taking the floor. Thanks for the invitation and for organizing this event. I understand that this is not something that was granted. The facilitation working group had to work hard to bring us together. And I understand also that there's a novelty in the fact that we're meeting as local communities and indigenous people in this framework. And I would like to thank also the wonderful hosts, the Korean people who make us feel so welcomed and taken care of. This is truly fantastic. And I'll start by saying that I'm a peasant from Romania. It's in Eastern Europe. Romania is a very rural country. I was actually sharing with the bus driver that brought me from Seoul here. The fact that Romania has a 46% of the population living in rural areas, and he was very impressed by that. Yes, it's actually one of the highest rural population in geographical Europe, and certainly the highest rural population in the European Union. My organization that I represent, Eco Ruralis, represents the interest of more than 20,000 peasants at national level. One of the things that we are known in my country is the fact that we work for preserving and producing local seed varieties. During communism time, we were robbed by the natural resources, especially land, but also seeds. And this is something we've been working hard to recover and to revitalize our genetic patrimony. And I'm proud to say that there's a lot of interest and it's growing interest, especially among young people in rural areas, but also urban areas like urban gardeners. You've heard my colleague yesterday talking about their initiative in Buruyana Garden. Yeah, so there's a lot of work on the ground that is being done. And I'm very proud to say that my community, the peasants, are contributing to building agroecology, healthy food for the people, and our day-to-day job is responding to the climate challenges that we're confronted with. But the story that I wanted to share is a little bit different. It's not about our work on seeds. It's about something that is related to governance. Governance is key when it comes to climate change. It impacts climate change. It's affecting our livelihoods, our culture. When our participation in decision making is limited, then we have wrongful governance. I come from a country that has a young democracy, and our government is not used to talk to the people. We need to learn together, we need to use all kinds of tools to make our voices heard. And one of these democratic tools that we used was access to justice. We are very concerned about the use of pesticides in my country. And this is a topic that we've been heavily involved in after years of efforts to try to make our government listen to us. We decided finally to take them to court last year. This is I have to say, this is a still ongoing process, but we do have results that are major, and I'm very proud to share them today. We managed to block the use of neonicotinoid pesticides on 3 million hectares of land. This represents approximately a third of the total surface of arable land in my country. And due to this, there's also claims of enormous losses, financial losses that the involved companies are claiming, approximately 3 billion euros. So the businesses with pesticides are enormous. Unfortunately, our government was reckless and irresponsible in supporting the use of illegal and abusively supporting the use of illegal pesticides in my country. And I couldn't recommend enough for all of us to use access to justice, because it doesn't only bring immediate results, but it also helps consolidate the state of law in our countries. And in my region, in Eastern Europe, where we local communities are confronted with tremendous pressure, including armed conflicts, invasion of from foreign aggressive countries, but also we are confronted with with young democracies, as I said, corruption and so on, we need to go beyond dialogue, but also make use of all of these tools that we have at our disposal. And I'd like to end expressing my solidarity with the indigenous brothers and sisters that made the voices, made the Daria and Natalia situation visible among us. I believe that we can be very powerful together, local communities and indigenous people, and this is a wonderful space where we can build this, further build this trust and cooperation that is so necessary more than ever before. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramona. And now floor goes to Sakda.
Yeah, good morning, brothers and sisters. My name is Sakda Sanmi. I am representative of the Council of Indigenous People in Thailand. And today I would like to share my case stories in the collective view a little bit to learn the knowledge and practicing of indigenous people in Thailand. As the title that you say that the community-led solutions and policy empowerment for climate adaptation of indigenous people is the one that I would like to say. I will highlight how we say that in the process to get the solutions, it's 4 key solutions that we have collect from our experience in Thailand. Firstly, we need to promote indigenous knowledge and practice that we have learned, that the knowledge come from learn from the behavior of animal and plants, and also it's one channel that we have learned. And at the same time, so we also have a chance to observe the nature, the star or the wind, the cloud, everything is to give the knowledge to us, and that's the one that we need to promote. And it means many related to the rituals, the ceremony that will be the indicator of the process that we still learn from them. And the second solutions, we need to strengthen the food security. That it means we need to increasing the foods, the traditional foods diversity, and also this one also very related with not only the food security from our agricultural practicing, but it must be look at the food from nature. That's our life must be related to the forest. It's not only taking the forest, but also we use some products for our life also. In this case, I think that it's very much related to the land. If you have you need to have the food security. It means you need to have the land security first. That's the main concern that our country. So it has a contradiction between the government policy and law on land and forest, that it will be a negative impact to our indigenous people livelihood. The next one. Okay. Yeah. The third solution that I would highlight to the supporting the role of communities member, community leaders, and also especially customers institution, that how it will be function to realize in the current situation. If we have very strong community regulation, also it means we can make a balance between the human and also the nature, how we be living in harmony. And if we can control the people, it means it will support your people to function in terms of how we be to living with the nature. And also, especially sustainable forest management, one thing that we challenge for our people, we also try to find the way to practice on that also. And And the last one's foster collaboration amongst community members and networks, especially we are living in the mountainous area. Most of our people, or some we are living in the island, but however, the people who are living the mountainous areas are very important to have the collective management, and especially in the watershed area. If you are living in the watershed area, that's one thing that I will to say. And also, more than that, in our experience, our people also to join with lowlands people also to put forward the draft act to protect our rights. That's one thing we have done in last decades. Up to now, so just last year, the act just passed in the consideration of the parliament and becomes annexed to be implemented in this year also. And more than that, that's just the act to promote and protect the rights of indigenous people. But however, we also still need to submit the new draft act, we call the Clean Air Draft Act, to join with other people movement on that. We expect it will be support. It's mechanism to support how indigenous people will adapt in the climate change situation that we have been doing now. This is my highlight to say some solution that our experience from Thailand. Thank you.
Thank you, Sagda. The next speaker is Satay Chakma.
Thank you very much. Zuzu, very good morning to you all. So, indigenous greeting. So, my name is Satish Chakma. I came from Bangladesh, especially from Chittagong Hill Tracts. So, I will be sharing some stories that the community people have been practicing for generations. As we are talking on the module 2, and that is regenerative community solutions, stewardship, and practices addressing climate change. So I'll be speaking some of the stories. I'll be discussing some of the stories from my community peoples. So you see in the screen, the case story title is Village Common Forest, that has been practicing for generations in my community, not only in my community peoples, but it is also practiced by both indigenous groups. They reside in Chittagong Hill Tracts. So you see, the Chittagong Hill Tracts is home to at least 920,000 indigenous peoples, according to the census of 2022. So they represent 14 distinct communities living across the 3 hill districts of Rangamati, Khagrachari, and Bandroban. So these communities maintain diverse language, cultures, and traditional governance systems with livelihood closely ties to forest, land, and natural resources. So as you see that I put a quote from my community that is, if forests endure, humanity endures. Without them, both people and biodiversity face profound risk. So I want to share the details of the village common forest, how that is governed, how that is maintained through the community peoples. So what is village common forest actually? The village common forest are community managed forest maintained by indigenous villagers, serving as shared resources located near their settlement in Chittagong Hill Tracts. So every community, I mean every villages used to have a community forest. So it is governed by and managed by the community people. So let's look at some rules and regulations that how indigenous communities are managing this community forest. First one is, you see, it is governed by the customary governance. So in our indigenous community, there is a customary governance systems, which is called, we have 3 tier of governance system. One is Karbari, that is the least tier, which is comprised of a village. So Karbari is the head of the village. And then with some villages, there is a headman who actually take care of some villages, and with several headmans, I mean with many headmans actually, there is a circle SIP. We call it Raja. I mean, it is in English in king. In our circle, you can know that Chakma Raja, Barrister Devashish Rai, he is a prominent indigenous right activist also. In our circle, he is now serving as the circle SIP. So through these customary governance systems, we have been managing this village common forest. And then you see it is the community ownership. So there is no concept of the individual ownership or private ownership of this village common forest. And as I have to conclude my speech, so I'll be very brief. So you see, there are some seasonal restrictions also. The community people temporarily they impose ban on resource collection during regeneration and breeding periods, like ban on fishing and collection of bamboo shoots or something like that. So so you see some other practices that the community people do in our community, in our regions. So before few days ago, we actually celebrated our Bizu festival. That is the most popular festival in our Chittagong Hills regions. So during this festival, we offer flower and also pray from the rivers, from the water body. So those all festivals are actually deeply rooted and grounded in our cultural practices. And then next, you see, during this festival, the indigenous peoples, they light candle under the trees. Those actually, those provide resource, fruits to the community people. That's why actually they try to worship those nature, to try to worship the source of the resources. And you see the house building mechanism. What is the house building mechanisms of indigenous peoples in Chittagong Hill Tracts? So we want to do minimal harm to the nature. So that's why actually we don't cut down the hills, but we want to adapt with the hills, with the high slope area. That's why actually we don't cut down the hills. So that is our house building mechanism that is practiced in Chittagong Hill Tracts. So as I have to conclude, because we are running out of time, so I will conclude with these remarks that implement UNDRIP, because you know in our country UNDRIP is not adopted, is not followed in our country, and we are not recognized by the government as indigenous peoples in the constitutions. There is no recognitions of indigenous peoples, their self-governance systems, their land rights is not constitutionally recognized. That's why actually I would conclude that implement UNDRIP, recognize indigenous peoples and respect their culture, philosophy, and their worldviews to save the nature, environment, biodiversity, and the whole human society. So thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, Satish. And the last speaker is Valeria Guznenko.
Good morning, everyone. I come from Moldova, from Eastern Europe, where the land is rich in black soils, hills, valleys that hold both memory and life. In many villages, mornings still begin in the garden, with hands in the soil, the smell of fresh herbs, and the quiet rhythm of nature. Rural life remains deeply connected to the land. Home gardens are not just a source of food, they are living ecosystems, places of care, resilience, and biodiversity. In our community, seeds are memory, heritage, and a shared responsibility between people and nature. But today, this connection is under pressure. Climate change is no longer something distant. We feel it every year in longer droughts, burning summers, and unpredictable rains. For small farmers and rural families, this means uncertainty, loss, and increasing vulnerability. At the same time, our local seed systems are slowly fading. Traditional varieties, carefully selected and saved over generations, are being replaced by commercial seeds that often do not belong to our land, they are not adapted, and struggle to survive in these harsher conditions. And yet, something very important is still alive. In many homes, seeds are still saved in small envelopes like this from newspapers or glass jars. Seasonal food is preserved with care. Wild plants are still gathered from fields and broadleaf forests. And knowledge, especially held by our beautiful women, continues to travel quietly from one generation to the next through hands, stories, and shared meals. Because food is not only nourishment, it is memory. That is why we also created a community called Slow Food Community. You have our contacts. This is a space to protect and celebrate the tastes, the aromas we remember from childhood, the recipes our grandmothers prepared, and the traditional vegetables varieties grown from local adapted seeds. It is about keeping alive not only what we grow, but how we feel, what we taste, and how we connect through food. Through our work with NGO Gradina Moldovi, that is translated like Garden of Moldova, we support and strengthen these living traditions. We organize agroecology schools, community gatherings, seed exchanges, and create seed libraries. Seed library is just a simple wooden box placed or in school or in public library in a public space where anyone can take seeds, can leave seeds, and become part of a shared story. Locally adapted seeds are resilient, they need fewer external inputs, they know the soil, they survive a drought, but more than that, they carry identity. So, because in a changing climate, one of the most powerful solutions we have is also one of the simplest: to protect, to use, and to share our seeds and the knowledge that grows with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Valeria. And we hasn't time for reflections. Let's thanks our speakers. Now we have only 10 minutes for the coffee break, which you see in the hall. And after that, we return to our. Please, only 10 minutes for coffee break. Please, after that, come in and continue our work. We'll start in 1 minute. Dear participant, we'll start our next session. We make some changes in our program. We give the floor to the sharing circle 5 later. Now we go to module 3. Module 3 is from lived knowledge to actionable recommendation. And I give floor to the secretariat to chat. Please chat.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started here, so those who are joining us for the first time, what you see on the screen is the framework which we have applied, or the FWG has applied in structuring this bi-regional gathering. So what you see, the three modules are already taking place. The first one is looking at how climate has impacted people's way of life. We've heard a range of examples ranging from how it's disrupt people's way of life to how it's affecting the disappearance of flora and fauna. Second module we heard today, and we will continue to hear after this, is what the indigenous peoples and local communities are doing to address such climate impact. And so the current module here is now that rich knowledge, not only knowledge, but really the values and perspectives that underlie and that guides the application of such knowledge can inform the UNFCCC process, and that's where we are. And so before I give the mics to the guest speakers, wanted to quickly share with you what the local communities and indigenous peoples platforms work is doing to facilitate the ethical incorporation or the application of such knowledge into the UNFCCC process. If you, okay, go to the next slide. So here what you see, it's, this is a diagram kind of trying to show a panoramic view of how that channeling of diverse knowledge and the values that are into the UNFCCC process through the LCIPP work. So the first row, what you see is this is done through the work of the LCIPP, including the mandated activities, including mandated events like the one we're convening here in Yosu. That's number one. Number two is the compilation of case stories. We, over the last two modules and the current module, we will get to hear about 40 or so case stories, and you have heard, I mean, the richness of the content that was shared. So that is also something that is mandated work to be carried out under the Baku work plan. And then the third one is now there's over the next 2 days, there will be a module for collectively also to generate actionable recommendations for the various constituted bodies. As I presented on day one, there are 17 constituted bodies, or now 15 constituted bodies. So there's recommendations to be shared for how their work can enhance the engagement of such rich content. And then the final corner you see, it's the LCIPP resource hub. So there is a dedicated web portal to continue to facilitate the engagement of indigenous peoples and local communities. And the event we hold here, as I mentioned, day one, is really not an isolated event, but it is intended to be a process. The second column there is then to have that work being carried out under the LCIPP. How does that feed into the UNFCCC process? So quickly, a couple of things to mention is, one, mechanism, a core mechanism for soliciting inputs or get engaged in views is the call for submissions. And some of you may already be familiar with, otherwise do visit the UNFCCC submission portal and respond to the calls that are already there. There are two of them related to the LCIPP currently. Indigenous peoples and local community representatives also serve on various events which you will experience across this Climate Week. But in addition to that, there are various thematic expert groups and advisory groups. And there are representatives currently representing on those. And one of them is, I'm sure, I think we may hear from James, the Executive Committee of Warsaw International Mechanism has a non-economic loss expert group, and one of the FFG member represent on that body. And then the production of the technical knowledge product. We may hear from co-chair of KCI, there was knowledge product produced and there were a lot of inputs from indigenous peoples and local communities. But these are means to an end. These are not in and of themselves an end. What is the end is to use that rich content to inform the collective progress towards addressing climate change. And so the last column you see is about how does this feed into the work? And there, I briefly mentioned three things. This is not meant to be exhaustive. One is to contribute to the work, global frameworks. Example, the global framework on global goal on adaptation. Contribute to the global stocktake process. We will hear that a lot on our final day, and we will have a colleague presenting the process, and you will have dedicated time to dive into how that process works and how you can contribute to that content. And then finally, to operationalize existing mandates. I know we're running somewhat tight on time, so we'll keep it short, but if you go to the next slide, the engagement of indigenous peoples and local communities, there's increasing recognition, not only the work we are carrying out here, but in the decisions. Here are some examples. Again, this is not meant to be exhaustive, but I wanted to highlight a couple of things. So if you look at the decision coming out of COP26, it recognizes the important role that culture and the knowledge of indigenous peoples and local communities play in effective climate actions. And so what does that culture mean? What is that knowledge? And your articulation, the case stories you shared here, helps to deepen that collective understanding of not only these words, but the world that behind these words. So if you look at the decision coming out of COP26, decision 16, CP26, this is a decision related to the LCIPP specifically. In that, the COP recognized the stewardship role, important role of indigenous peoples and local communities in relation to the stewardship of and living in harmony with nature. And this is also a timely language and decision to highlight, because for those who haven't had a chance to look at the first letter coming out of the incoming COP30 president designate that issued a letter, in there they also invoke or mentions the principles of living in harmony with nature. And this work that we're doing here helps to not only bring visibility to that, but to articulate what does that mean. In the corner, what you see is this is a decision 2 CMA 5. This is in the context of the global goal on adaptation framework. And what you see here specifically mentions the implementation of that framework should take into consideration the worldviews and values of indigenous peoples. And I want to pause there a little bit, because what does that mean? What are the worldviews? What are the values? And we heard quite a bit from the knowledge holders, the collective wisdom that you represent. So again, there are decisions calling for recognizing that diverse worldviews and values. And so what you've shared here will help articulate a shared understanding of what those are. Finally, the decision 1 CMA 5, this is the in the preambular text of that decision. This is about the global stocktake, recognizes the importance of a role indigenous peoples and local communities play and the integrity of all ecosystems, and in some cultures recognizes as Mother Earth. And I think the phrase itself says enough. is the type of respect you have for nature. If it's called mother, I think there's no words can say, more or more clearly than that. But sufficient to say there are existing practices and there are many existing mandates that calls for the engagement of this diverse values, worldviews, and knowledge system you all present. So with that, not taking too much time, I hand the floor back to Slava, and thank you, Slava.
Thank you, Chad. And now let's go to our guest speakers. And you see the first speaker will be Mr. James Tonio, representative of the Executive Committee of the Warsaw International Mechanism for Loss and Damage. Please, floor yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm Donjo James from Kenya, member of Executive Committee on Loss and Damage, representing Africa, but here I'm representing the entire EXCOM in this meeting. I want to take this floor to appreciate the organizer of this event and taking opportunity to invite the EXCOM also to share their perspective in terms of the local and indigenous knowledge engagement in the entire process. And also, I want also to appreciate, I come from a country that we don't take indigenous and local knowledge lightly because in Kenya, the apex of decision-making body in climate space is the Climate Change Council, chaired by the president, with 9 members, and one of the members is a representative from indigenous community, who always must be nominated from the indigenous community. And has been growing up, one thing that I know, and I've learned a lot, it is from our parents. Like I believe when my grandma prepares and say, now let us prepare the land because the rain is coming, more than sometimes what we get from our scientific bodies within the country, our Kenya Meteorological Department. And in some of the areas, they don't believe science until the local person predict for them. And this was the biggest challenge. Until now, we have an integrated model of cascading the knowledge to the community, where the indigenous give their knowledge and also the scientific, then they meet in a hall, then they develop what we call dissemination program together, because that is what the community wants. So it comes from the board. It's my pleasure to join this regional gathering on behalf of the executive committee. And thank you, the members who find this. I know you put a lot in preparing this, and also I'm glad to be one of person in this panel. From the perspective of engaging with the indigenous people and local community, particularly important because loss and damage is experienced first and foremost at the community level, and the main of it, most significant dimension, are not captured purely in economic terms. And also, I know most of you understand economic and non-economic losses. And the WIM executive guides the implementation of the function of the Warsaw International Mechanism for the loss and damage through its 5-year rolling work plan. It's good also to go through that rolling work plans and see what are some of the inputs that you can give or how you can domesticate some of the action within your country. Across this work, we seek to take into account in a cross-cutting manner the knowledge and specific concern of indigenous people and local community. And this is particular evidence in the EXCOM work of non-economic losses, and one of the member has alluded to previously, where it is they're part of the facilitative working group. And this work stream focus on loss that are not easily quantifiable, such as loss of life and health, loss of territory, cultural heritage, indigenous and local knowledge and biodiversity, and ecosystem services. And some of us, we grew in the village where we used to take the medicinal from specific plants that they are no longer there. So, and you know, some of this value, nobody can quantify them, how much you've lost. And this is a big challenge. And I know how some of us believe also, and we are attached to our graves or graveyards, which are no longer there because of some of these climate impacts. Some of them have been flooded or submerged completely. And this is causing some of the things that you cannot quantify, emotional attachment, which are part of the non-economic losses. So to support this work, the EXCOM established a dedicated expert group on non-economic losses and invited the facilitative work group of the LCIPP to participate as an expert member. And this has allowed indigenous people, local community perspective to help inform not only the content of the work, but also how the non-economic losses are framed and approached. And that is, they are now working, and you want to see the work on the progress from the same team. And this context, indigenous knowledge is not treated simply as the additional source of information. It also helps shape how loss itself understood, particularly where losses are intangible, rational, or deeply connected to culture and spiritual values. In the policy level, this direction is firmly anchored in COP and CMA guidance. And if you can all recall, the most recent decision from the third review of the WIM under the CMA requested the EXCOM to enhance the meaningful involvement of the development and dissemination, meaningful involvement of indigenous people and local community, along other group in the development, dissemination of loss and damage in knowledge products. And tomorrow we'll be talking about the same, and we will invite you now to see how the EXCOM will be disseminating the information. And then decision also highlight importance of ensuring the work under the Santiago network is informed by indigenous people knowledge and local community knowledge system, reinforcing inclusive approach across the wider loss and damage architecture. And also, I know all of you know about the Santiago network on loss and damage, which catalyzes the technical assistance for the countries. And also you are invited maybe to bid and request on behalf of your countries in line with the indigenous people needs. So loss and damage directly to this guidance, the plan of action of non-economic losses for 2025, 2027, place a new emphasis on the engagement with the indigenous people. And the plan output include technical guide on applying indigenous people rational value and culture perspective in assessment of non-economic losses, as well as biannual updates, integrating indigenous knowledge and practical guidance and addressing loss related to cultural heritage. Importantly, this deliverable will be led by the LCIPP Facilitative Working Group, and I think it has been mentioned. And the EXCOM is looking forward to welcome the Facilitative Working Group to our upcoming meeting of EXCOM 24 next week in Bonn to hear more about timelines and plans of these products, and to explore how collaboration between the Facilitative Working Group and the EXCOM can continue in a practical and constructive way. In parallel, the EXCOM has already developed a range of knowledge products that reflect this principle, and these include technical paper on the non-economic losses, technical guide on integrating human mobility, and consideration in National Adaptation Plan, the compendium of comprehensive risk management. And together, this product highlights good practice to engage indigenous people and local community. So the EXCOM working plan also contains a dedicated activity focused on engaging indigenous people and tradition and local knowledge holders, and on the expanding understanding of role of traditional knowledge in the context of non-economic losses. So looking ahead, the EXCOM sees strong value in continuing to strengthen collaboration with the LCIPP, focus working group through ongoing knowledge exchange, early engagement, and development of technical products. So before, as I conclude, I would like to thank the current LSICP focus working group representative to this to the previous representative, that is non-economic losses, sorry for that, Mr. Robert, and also his alternate, Ms. Victoria, as well as the previous representative, Gad Blatt, and their important contribution to this work. So thank you again for the opportunity to share the reflection, and we look forward as EXCOM for more engagement. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you, Mr. James. And now we give floor to Ms. Angelina Tutua-Mensah. She's representative of Katowice Committee of Experts on the Impacts of the Implementation of Response Measures. Please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It is a real pleasure to be here with you at this bi-regional gathering, and I want to start by appreciating the invite extended to the Katowice Committee on the impacts to share insights into how we as a committee have included the priorities of local communities and indigenous peoples into our work. The KCI's work underscore a growing recognition that the voices, the rights, and traditional knowledge of local communities and indigenous peoples are not peripheral, but central to craft equitable, effective responses to climate challenges. As I begin this intervention, allow me to share some context on the work of the KCI by introducing you to our work areas. We were established in 2018 in Poland, Katowice, and I think that is where the LCIPP also came to fore. We operate as a constituted expert body supporting the Forum on Response Measures, and our focus areas, we have 4 core pillars: economic diversification and transformation, just transition of the workforce, including decent work quality jobs, assessing and analyzing impact of response measures, and the 4th one, building capacity for tools and methodologies in impact assessment. Next slide. Next slide. The 4 are all connected, and across all of them, who bears the impact and who needs to be part of the design calls. The KCI has involved and will continue to involve these needs and priorities through 4 work programs. Now, the relevant mandate is to provide further context. Allow me to mention that the involvement of local communities and indigenous peoples in our work is grounded in clear mandate. And the first one is a mandate under 2022 to 2025 work program, activity 9 of the work plan requested the KCI to identify and assess the impact of the implementation of response measures, taking into account intergenerational equity, gender considerations, and the needs of local communities, indigenous peoples, youth, and other people in vulnerable situations. This mandate was significant as it calls for careful consideration of the priorities of local communities and indigenous peoples in climate policy impact assessment. Then at COP28, the mandate was deepened. The decisions from COP28 requested the KCI to undertake further research on measuring the potential and actual impact of response measures on people in vulnerable situations, including local communities and indigenous peoples, and encourage parties to consider them. Slide 4, please. So LCIPP and the response measures. The implementation of these mandates by the KCI produced tangible outputs. The first output is a technical report titled Impact of the Implementation of Response Measures on Intergenerational Equity, Gender, Local Communities, Indigenous Peoples, Youth, and People in Other Vulnerable Situations. This report is directly as a direct output of Activity 9 from the 2020-2025 work plan, and it examines how climate mitigation policies affect these groups in different ways. The second output is a policy brief titled Climate Policy Impact Assessment, centering intergenerational equity, gender, youth, local communities, and indigenous peoples. This publication directly addressed the COP28 mandate. It synthesized further research on the impact of response measures on these groups, discussed impact assessment methodologies, and provided insight into centering various needs into climate policy impact. So, LCIPP and the response measures work too. Next slide. Beyond publications, we've also worked to bring these issues into formal UNFCCC process through direct dialogue. At SB 62 in Bonn in June 2025, as a direct result of the work conducted by KCI, the Forum on Response Measures held an in-session workshop under the title Inclusive Impact Assessment of Response Measures, integrating intergenerational equity, gender, youth, local communities, and indigenous peoples. This was a deliberate effort to open up the impact assessment dialogue and share insight on effective approaches to include historical marginalized groups such as local communities and indigenous peoples into climate policy impact. Slide 6, please. Reflection, importance of this effort in collective action plan. I now want to pause a bit and reflect on why all this matters for collective climate action. First, weaving the worldwide views of local communities and indigenous peoples can enhance climate policy effectiveness. Integrating the rich and long-standing knowledge systems about environment, economics, and context of local communities and indigenous peoples into climate policy and impact assessment means that we get a better understanding of potential impact and how to manage it. Two, secondly, it contributes to just transitions. Understanding impact on local communities and indigenous peoples group have been long excluded from such assessment. Allows us to develop policies and contribute viable livelihood opportunities while minimizing potential adverse impact. Third, it improves data quality and contextual relevance. Knowledge held by local communities and indigenous peoples can complement conventional data sources, providing context-specific insights that enhance the accuracy and relevance of impact assessment and the design of climate policies. The future work with LCIPP. Next slide. The KCI is fully committed to continue including the priorities of local communities and indigenous peoples in its work. Looking ahead of the KCI is now operating under the 2026-2030 work plan. This new work plan contains 17 activities with a range of output, including case studies, technical reports, and workshops. The KCI looks forward to integrating local communities and indigenous peoples into these activities as applicable. Importantly, the KCI is also actively deliberating on how to better engage stakeholders such as local communities and indigenous peoples' work, including through its communication and outreach strategy. Further, KCI meetings remain open for observers, which means local communities and indigenous peoples through their recognized constituencies have real opportunities to provide input into our ongoing work. We look forward to continually engaging with you all in addressing the needs of local communities and indigenous people. I thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angelina. Now we go to next speaker, Ms. Sally Higgins, please. She is represent incoming COP31st Presidency Youth Climate. And start from Hyunjin Chan, Mr. And he represents Actions by Climate Empowerment.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Hyunjin Chang. I am from the UNFCCC Secretariat. I'm working in the team Action for Climate Empowerment, and it's really honored to be here today, and thank you for the invitation. I will start with the introduction on the ACE portion and a brief introduction about the mandate of the Presidency Youth Climate Champion, and then handing the floor to our incoming COP31 Presidency Youth Climate Champion. Maybe this works. Okay. So many of you might never have heard the term ACE. It is a term adopted under our process to refers to the efforts relating to Article 6 of the Convention and Article 12 of the Paris Agreement. So this has existed from the 1993 when the convention has entered into force. Parties over the year have continuously recognized that it plays a key role in promoting the changes in systems, behaviors, and attitudes. And this is to empower all members of society to lead climate action. And by the articles, ACE has 6 elements: education, public awareness, training, public participation, public access to information, and international cooperation in these areas. And you will already see that the work of the LCIPP and the Facilitator Working Group are very much aligned with the work of the Action for Climate Empowerment, and that the activities and mandates that this bi-regional gathering itself already checks the multiple boxes of ACE. So we Very much appreciate the work of the platform, and we also appreciate the collaboration that we have. Given the close linkages, children and youth are considered a cross-cutting focus of the work of ACE, and that is why the ACE team currently also serves as a children and youth focal point within the Secretariat. Under the process, the work on ACE has been guided by successive work programs, and the oldest one was adopted back in 2002 in New Delhi, and the work program has gone through multiple revisions and updates. The current work program was adopted in COP26 back in 2021, the 10-year Glasgow work program on ACE. And as a novel feature, the following COP in Sharm el-Sheikh, we also adopted the action plan under the work program. The initial one was 4-year, and that is actually coming to an end at the end of this year. And you'll see that this year actually marks the 5th year of the work program, and it's now due for a midterm review. And the expectation is that as part of the outcome of the midterm review, a new cycle, the new action plan will be adopted to last until the end of the Glasgow work program. So the negotiation on the midterm review and the new action plan will begin in the June session in a couple of weeks. The Glasgow work program aims to advance all 6 ACE elements in a holistic manner, and it does so by proposing 4 thematic priority areas to address the gaps and challenges in a more systematic way. These priority areas include policy coherence, coordinated action, tools and support, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting, and particularly the policy coherence that looks to mainstreaming ACE into the work under the UNFCCC, but also outside of the UNFCCC, UN systems, or the work of the parties and non-party stakeholders might be particularly relevant for the work of the platform. Just briefly on some of the key references that we have regarding the local communities and indigenous peoples. In the Glasgow work program, it reaffirmed the key role that a broad range of stakeholders play in implementing ACE. And here, indigenous peoples are explicitly listed as the key stakeholders when it comes to ACE implementation. The Glasgow work program also offers a menu of activities that parties and others can opt to implement. So it includes integrating traditional and indigenous knowledge into education curricula, providing training for community leaders, promoting community-led initiatives, etc. So there are calls to action in terms of the involvement and the promotion of the work of the local communities and indigenous peoples. Under the action plan, which is designed to be a more short-term concrete activities, we had this joint session actually last year during our ACE dialogue that looked at the role of children, youth, and indigenous peoples in promoting ACE, as well as the role of intergenerational knowledge sharing. Under the priority areas of tools and support, there are activities that include and refers explicitly to local communities and indigenous peoples, but unfortunately, the specific deliverables do not have that. It's more oriented towards children and youth focused action, and at the moment does not refer to local communities and indigenous peoples specifically. But with the midterm review that is upon us, this can be changed. So the midterm review, you will also have a chance because the ACE dialogue and the technical workshop that will be held before the negotiation starts will be open to participation by observers as well. And this is an excellent opportunity for anyone who's registered to the session to come in and provide ideas, reflection on how the ACE was implemented over the past 4 years, and provides the way forward. So according to the overview schedule that was just published yesterday, I believe, at the ACE dialogue, the first part of it, which will be focusing on informing midterm review, so more about looking backward, will happen on the first day of the SB, while the technical workshop portion, which is more about looking forward, the mandate explicitly said it's about discussing potential elements for a new action plan that will be held over 2 days on Tuesday and Thursday. The workshop will be, a dialogue and the workshop will be informed by the submissions made by parties and non-party stakeholders. The deadline was the 31st of March. We will design the agenda accordingly, but again, it will be open to observer participation as well. So we very much look forward to be welcoming you there. And next, briefly on the PYCC, this is a new role created in COP28. It came up as part of the consideration that the presidency has a unique role in enhancing meaningful children and youth engagement within the UNFCCC process, but also climate action more broadly. And so far, we had 3 PYCCs nominated and doing their carrying out their mandates. COP29, Azerbaijan, we had Leila Hassanova, who also acted as a chairperson of the Non-Aligned Movement Youth Organizations. COP30 PYCC for Brazil, Marcele Oliveira, who was a director of an NGO called Perifalab. And now we have the new COP31 PYCC, Sally Higgins, who is a farmer and a policy consultant on the topics of natural resources and agriculture. This role carries out multiple functions that are listed here. I'm not going to go through them one by one, but it's really about elevating the voices of children and youth, enhancing their participation, and allowing for catalyzing action using the COP especially as a leverage. And this role is created to be working in synergies with existing youth actors, organizations, and networks. And that is the decision highlights that the duplication will be avoided with the work that many of you might be already taking on the ground. This would be the last slide. And the PYCC usually is someone who needs to be within the age group of 18 to 35. And it's important again to highlight that they act on behalf of the presidency to enhance the meaningful children and youth engagement. And as part of their mandate, they will be supporting the work and decisions of the COP and the CMA, the work of the Global Climate Action Agenda, but also working closely with our youth constituencies and youth across all NGO constituencies, and that again will be acting as a bridge between the voices and the presidency. There will be multiple opportunities for people to be engaging with Sally this year. Climate Week, this one is her first international engagement. You will be able to meet with her again at the SBs. There will be a lot of virtual opportunities to be engaging with the COP30 and COP31 PYCCs, but also at the COP. There is an informal youth gathering that will be hosted at the end of this week, 24th April on Friday. That will be from 3 to 4:30 p.m. in Seminar Room 16, which will be hosted by COP31 PYCC as well as UNFCCC Secretariat. So we will be welcoming you there. And then I will now hand the floor to Sally.
Thank you, Hyunjin, and good morning, everybody. Thank you to the Facilitative Working Group for the invitation to this gathering. And it's my privilege to be here to learn directly from you, the knowledge holders and the community leaders that are in the room today. In Australia, Indigenous peoples and local communities are central to how we understand land, water, and the climate. Their knowledge and long-term stewardship is critical to our resilience and adaptation. And I know this is true not only in Australia, but in the countries and in the places that you all come from as well. I grew up in a small regional community in Australia called Allera. And I live and work there today as a farmer with my partner. And my community is really important to me, and it's a really important part of who I am. My background growing up in a small community shapes how I think about climate action. And I see that climate action needs to be practical, locally led, and done with communities. Farming has also taught me to look long term, that I should look after the land and that it can look after me, my children, and my children's children. and not only to produce food that we can all share and enjoy, but also because my farm provides a beautiful place to live and a beautiful way of life. Indigenous people in Australia have practiced this kind of caring for country for tens of thousands of years. And so that shared focus on caring for future generations is something that I carry with me in this role. So I'm very honoured and very excited to step into the role of the COP31 Presidency Youth Climate Champion. My role will be to strengthen the meaningful engagement of young people, children and youth across the UN FCCC process, including Indigenous youth and young people from local communities. I'm committed to working closely with them throughout this year to ensure their perspectives are not only heard, but reflected in the COP31 process. I would like to echo Huanjin's invitation to the informal youth gathering on Friday at 3 p.m. in Seminar Room 16. I would love to meet some of you and hear your stories and about your communities. This will be an opportunity to connect with me and with other young people who are attending Climate Week. So thank you again for the invitation and for the opportunity to be part of this discussion. I'm here to listen and to learn and to help ensure the insights shared in this room continue to shape the work we take forward into COP31. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanjin. Thank you, Ms. Sally. And now, time to give floor to our contributors. And the first contributor is Valerie Nolasco from Neatero.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to acknowledge with respect our knowledge holders who are present here today. I would also like to acknowledge the Secretariat and our distinguished speakers and everybody who is a part of this dialogue. So, my name is Valerie Nolasco. I belong to the organization Neatero Foundation. At Neatero, we support indigenous guardianship of territory. In the past, we used to support the participation of indigenous leaders in the different UN spaces. We evolved to supporting the different indigenous caucuses in the different climate spaces, specifically the Rio Conventions. And now we are looking into supporting more meaningful engagement of indigenous peoples with the different states in all these processes. And I recognize that this platform, the LCIPP platform, is a very important platform where all the valuable knowledge that I've been hearing this past 2 days can be somehow translated, hopefully, into concrete policy asks and outcomes. So I look forward to collaborating with you all and to learn more from you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Yeleni Cairo from the Green Climate Fund. Cairo, is she here? Chat, Eleni. No, sorry. Okay. Let's go to our participants. Maybe some knowledge holders or participants of our event have questions to our guest speakers. Yes, okay, you can take the microphone.
Thank you, Co-Chair. So my name is Mithun Kumar Orao, and I'm from Bangladesh and belong to the Orao indigenous community. And I came here as a knowledge holder. And I am working with Malia Foundation and playing as a secretariat role to the Bangladesh Indigenous Peoples Network on Climate Change and Biodiversity. So within the network, we have 26 indigenous peoples organization who are directly working with the community. So my role is in the network and organization to ensuring indigenous peoples' participation in the decision-making process. And I'm very glad to know that about the KCI and Warsaw International Mechanism Loss and Damage mandate and activity. And also I'm very glad to see the Youth COP31 presidency. And also it's first time I know about the Action for Climate Empowerment activity. Yeah. So thank you so much for the sharing. So my question is that regarding the recognition of indigenous people's participation in the policy level, in my context, that in my country, in Bangladesh, because you can address the issue indirectly to the government. That's why I'm asking that in our country, we are facing a lot of impact of climate change, but in our country, we have many policies related to the climate change, including NAP and also NDC, and regarding the climate finance, but there is no single climate policy which is dedicated to the indigenous peoples. So the problem is that when we negotiate with the government, that we have lots of issue, but the policy is not recognized in our state level. So my request you to that, if you raise the issue to the government directly, that to compromise and implementing for the indigenous people's participation in the state level to develop a policy which is dedicated to the indigenous peoples. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, okay.
Thank you. Thank you again for all the presenters. And my name is Ajmal Ramyar. I came from context of Afghanistan. I work with young people, and I also lead a non-profit organization. My question is, throughout the past 2 days, we have heard from different contexts, from different indigenous people and communities. And throughout all the conversation, we saw that the adaptability, building resilience and flexibility come across. And we have also heard from many of the panelists and experts that there should be more resilience building, more flexibility. But my question is like, why we can focus more on prevention? Because we see that different communities are facing climate issues. And if we continue focusing on adding adaptation or flexibility in the mechanisms, I think we might miss the prevention. So any insights on how we can brought out the prevention strategy for those countries who would maybe face challenges in the coming years? And this is directly that we see the countries who are facing ongoing conflict, those who are facing ongoing displacement. I think for those people, the issue is like not flexibility adaptation, because the current climate changes like as a part of their day-to-day life, and it's a burden to what they're already suffering. So I think if there's any insight on how we can adapt like more prevention mechanism to like for the upcoming conferences or upcoming more on a state or global level mechanism. Thank you.
Thank you. And next speaker.
Indigenous greetings. I'm Pema Wangmo Lama from Nepal, from Mogum Indigenous community. I have 2 questions for 2 people, one for the representative of KIC. Regarding the impacts of implementation and response measures, I think for a lot of indigenous peoples, we face that a lot. For example, in Nepal, our NDCs really focus on clean energy, especially through hydropower projects, which directly impact and has displaced many indigenous peoples. So I would like to ask if the mandate of KIC includes sending communications to the states regarding the impacts we face, and if we have done something like that, and how we can facilitate more, because while we already are on the front line of facing climate change impacts, we're more vulnerable towards, for my community and a lot of community in Nepal, we're more vulnerable to the implementation of mitigation actions and adaptation actions led by the states themselves. So how do we go on about addressing that, and how can we make a better spaces to communicate that with states properly through these processes, through these intergovernmental processes? And another is like introduction to our PICC representative for COP31. I'm also a working group member of International Indigenous Youth Forum on Climate Change, a Indigenous Youth Caucus under Indigenous Peoples Constituency. So we'd love to work with you, and we are already working with Marcy Ali for COP30 as well. And just to highlight that for Indigenous young people, it's very difficult to attend UNFCCC processes because of lot of financial challenges as well as other logistic challenges. So we'd love to work with you and maybe facilitate a better process and better opportunities for more Indigenous young people to participate in this process so they can bring forward their community realities in places where decisions are made. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yes, yes, and next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Nicholas Muja, and knowledge holder from Malaysia. Yeah, well, it's really really interesting to hear from our speakers. But as a traditional knowledge holder from Malaysia, I think we have a lot of question and concern on the implementation of this climate justice. Because in Malaysia, we don't have a mechanism where there's a legal platform that the government really engage the indigenous people. So besides that, in Malaysia, if we are talking about the indigenous livelihood, you have to step back further backward, because what transcends in our country really is the loss and damage that matter most. So the question is, how do the indigenous people can benefit from at least the funding for the implementation, if that indigenous people want to be part of this climate mitigation? I think that is from me. And of course, what we were told in our country for this climate implementation and funding, it is only for the government to govern basis. So how can the indigenous people really take advantage of those the issues that does not go direct to the indigenous people? Thank you.
Thank you. And you, please.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Kalea Aquino. I'm from the Philippines. I'm an Indigenous woman, but I am also following the loss and damage work stream, specifically on the Fund for Responding to Loss and Damage. So my question is directed to the representative from the WIM Execom. So considering the technical mandate of the WIM, because in the Fund for Responding to Loss and Damage, as someone who has been attending board meetings, there is really there is the discussion on the active observers policy is not yet there. It is yet to be discussed in the next board meeting, the B9, which is later this year. So considering the technical mandate of the WIM, how and your linkages with this platform and the FWG, how can we influence the FRLD to direct its mandate and to deliver the fund and the justice that Indigenous peoples deserve? That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Maybe now we give floor to our guest speakers to answer your questions and comments. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for those questions and compliment. I didn't get clearly the last question of the fund for responding for the loss and damage, but at least I heard you talking about the role of WIMEXCOM. You know, in the loss and damage, it is a unique thing, which also we are trying because it is one of the agenda items that has 3 different entry into a country. Because we have the WIM, which is of the policy guidance, we have the Santiago Network on loss and damage, which is supposed to give the technical assistance. Then we have now the fund, which is supposed now to give now the funding for the actual actions. And I know in the COP, the last COP, that is COP 30, there was a call that now the country can submit their request for the tune of 5 to 20 million USD, and the call is ending at 15th June. And I know most of the countries, they are preparing to submit, but the biggest challenge, few countries have the data for the loss and damage. And some now they are struggling now to consolidate the data. And among the countries like in Kenya, it was so hard for us initially to bid. Until now, we requested for the technical assistance for a comprehensive assessment for the loss and damage and the special report for the impact of the loss and damage for the women, children, and youth. And people living with a disability. So as we can be able to create a pipeline projects. So, and you know, modality C is working, and I know the biggest now challenge is now how to make modality A and B direct budget support. And I had someone talking about the funding. And I think you can write, and also during this discussion meeting for the board, when you attend as an observer, you can have an influence, because sometimes the observer, you meet one-on-one with the board representatives and you can talk to them directly. These are the priority that you want to see when you are discussing in this agenda item, when you're discussing this criteria, in this implementation of this Babedo BIM, Babedo implementation modality. These are the things that you want to see as the indigenous community. Like currently our proposal that we're developing, it's purely for the indigenous community. Because it's one of the sections that has been left aside, and it's what you are using. It's what you call local-led climate action, through participatory climate risk assessment, where the community themselves, they say what they want. We just shape by writing and giving the technical inputs, but what they want to see is them that they can say. And that's the biggest challenge that also can respond to one of the question where government imposes projects to the communities, which now is something that has changed. Because initially you may think this community, they are suffering because of the water. It's out of the experience where there was an issue in the community, there was no water. Women, they were trekking more than 5 kilometers to fetch the water. And the government saw the best impact, the best solution here is to drill the borehole next to the village, so the women, they will not be moving to 5 kilometers to fetch the water. But the issue was not the water. So after the borehole was drilled, the women still went for 5 kilometers. They said we didn't need that water near, because we were not going there just for the water, but we have our also other meetings that we use that place, our normal meeting, engagement with our other women from a different location. So the issue was not water. They were not consulted. If they were consulted initially, we could not have wasted the money in that. And that's why now we understand now it's good to engage the community, so they can give you the perspective on what they want. And then also maybe the indigenous community, you have identified the gaps on loss and damage. You can request through the Santiago Network on loss and damage some of the technical assistance. And I heard someone talking about the policy that speaks purely on matters of the indigenous community. Most of the countries, they don't have, because they take indigenous and local knowledge issues as we mainstream them in climate actions. But there is no specific intervention that you can get, and you can request this as one of the technical assistance within your country. What do you want to be supported? And then the SNLD will take up, and some of the OBNEs, they can register. Some of you have heard you talking about you are the knowledge holders. Have you registered to be expert, like OB organization body or expert under the Santiago Network? So when Kenya is requesting for the technical assistance, you can give us the technical know-how of how to integrate indigenous knowledge and local knowledge within our policies or our interventions. So those are some of the areas that the team can join and also can support.
Miss Angelina, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for your relevant questions. If I heard right, is to the one that is alluding to KCI is about how policies at the local level could be made, and how we can also report on indigenous people's work. I think that one, we need to, it's a very big gap. For example, when you look at the recent report on our NDCs, though there's been a 70% increase in indigenous people's work, but it doesn't actually explain much as to what that 70% is all about. The most relevant thing one we could do as indigenous people is to make sure that this is domesticated in our country and it is hooked into your legal and constitutional processes. Without that, you will never have a voice in the policies that is being made. Secondly, in the enhanced transparency framework, we are supposed to report on the social, economic, and environmental impact, both positive and negative. And in so doing, how it is designed, we should make sure that indigenous people's concerns are put into the design of the responses that we have to be responding onto. The other area that I would also want to share and see how those who are having difficulty in being part of the policy is you are a very strong voice. I think your voices are stronger than all the civil societies put together. And in your home country, you need to push to be part of the NDCs, those who are developing the NDCs, those who are developing the NAPs, and those who are developing the LT-LEDs. Now, that is the only way your voices could be heard and your voices could be written, and the knowledge holding that you have could be put on the documentation for us to understand. Without you not being part of it, it will not make any impact. You have to be part of the process of how the NDCs are being written onto the UNFCCC portals. The other area is if countries have not also domesticated the LCIPPs into their national framework, it is about time it is done and you move forward to do that, especially the one who was talking about the policy that is not in their country and that is overlooked. It is your responsibility as indigenous people to move that forward in the country. Your focal persons, your lead negotiators, are the people you should hold them responsible as to, yes, the LCIPPs is stating that this has to be integrated. How far have you gone with it? They should be answerable to you. And so hold them responsible as to why some countries do not have these policies. So the NAPs are written without indigenous people's strong knowledge and great knowledge, which actually is an enabler to transitions and to actually bringing down the greenhouse effect. Your knowledge on biodiversity is very great. And it is very important you query and question and demand that you should be part or it should be part of the NAPs, of the NDCs, and of the LT-LEDs. So in short, this is what I will say to the two questions that I think is alluding to the KCI's rule and the response measures in that direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And comments from Mr. Hyunjin and Ms. Sari, please.
Thank you. I wanted to share just one comment in response to the question on the focus on prevention. To share that as a young person, sometimes it can feel quite sad to only talk about resilience and adaptation as if there is no option for prevention. So I wanted to respond by suggesting that young people could be a great partner in bringing a focus towards prevention, and it would help young people to feel more agency in, I suppose, taking action as opposed to just responding to something that is happening to them. And the other comment I wanted to share is in response to the Indigenous Youth Forum to just acknowledge that I heard your comment and that, yes, we would like to work with you and understand more about opportunities to collaborate across this year. So thank you for the question.
And my response will be a bit more indirect, but one of the functions of, or the beauty of ACE process under our process is that we actively share good practices and identifying ways to scale up, give everyone inspirations for what can happen in relation to the different ACE elements. So I think the comments and questions we received, some of them are very directly relevant to the ACE elements. So we would be very happy to identify opportunities to be able to amplify the work that is happening on the ground by either governments or local communities and indigenous peoples, and to help you with the collaboration that can happen under our process. So I'll leave it at there.
Thank you. Dear participants, dear knowledge holders, you can receive more information when you take part in the activities of Climate Week. You can meet our guest speakers on these activities and you can receive more information and can ask your questions and receive any answers. And please take active part in these activities. And let's thank our guest speakers. And now we return to our program and to our sharing circle 5. And now I invite our speakers from the sharing circle 5, Alexandras Koutras, Alexandras Koutras, Anna Godjak, Kalea Adriana Aquina, Tui Duok Lo, Yodgor Konunov. Sorry if I have some mistakes in. And I repeat, Alexandros Koutras, Anna Godjak, Kalea Adriana Aquina, Tui Duok Lo, and Yodgor Konunov. Yes. Yes. Yes, and the first speaker is Alexandras Koutras. Can we ask to return this presentations? I ask our speakers only 4 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Listening to your stories over the past 2 days has been very inspiring for me. Coming from a region from the Western Balkans, I have realized that we have been detached from the term of what is a community. So being here, it actually brings us back to the roots of what is a community. Now, as you can see, I'm a member of the Common N. Common N is an energy community that is based in northwest part of Greece. And as you can see in these pictures, these are the members of the energy community. They're normal people, parents, farmers, teachers, who they discovered a new way to fight for their rights and for their energy independence. They're reclaiming what is the sense of the community. So you will probably ask me, what is an energy community? That's the question, because I think that I'm bringing a different type of a community here from a different topic. Now, in the very broad sense, is a democratic ecosystem. It's a group of citizens, municipalities, small businesses that they gather together. They create a legal entity according to the law in our region, and they can produce the energy themselves. They can have a project. In our case, it's solar panels, but they can also harvest the wind, small hydro, or other small scale interventions like biomass. Now, they can also move apart from producing the energy to many more ways of community engagement. This can be like different workshops. They can work on grassroots research. They can advocate for policy change. They're not just producing the electricity to decrease the bill at their homes. And when I say democratic, every person has one vote. They co-design their actions and they also co-decide on them. Okay, so we have realized that usually big corporations, when they create new solar parks, they just tend to forget what the local environment needs and also what the local communities also need. They call this green transition, but in my opinion, this is not green at all. And it's not just. So energy communities here, they make this transition just. They operate in proximity with the local environment, they build trust, and they also fight energy poverty. In our common energy community, we also have members from vulnerable households who cannot pay the electricity bills, and we provide for them free electricity and also a saying in our community. So these people participate in our gatherings and our actions, and therefore they also integrate. And this is what we actually need for marginalized people of our society. I call these people very smart, beautiful, and always with a smile, and literally they have the energy in their hands. Now, just to go fast to one project of our energy community that we work in a local level in the Balkan region with our neighbors from North Macedonia. This is the first urban agri-PV small pilot system in Greece, and soon this is going to be also implemented with our partners in Skopje, North Macedonia. So this is located within the city in an urban setting in mental health center. People there are going to take some care, but at the same time, they want to reintegrate in the society. So with these installments, we help them to reduce their electricity bills, but at the same time, they can cultivate food below these agri-PVs. So we want this pilot to become, let's say, a first experiment of how to engage local community in the region, to become a place where practitioners can see this in practice, schools and students can also come to see it in real life. This is also going to be implemented in Skopje, North Macedonia, and a local community there with our partners in an elementary school. Now, here are some very brief pictures of our action there. And to conclude, because we're running out of time, what I want you to remember from my very short story is not the kilowatts that we produce. I want you to remember a few keywords that they actually describe our community. It's first of all, resilience, autonomy, inclusion, participation, and most importantly, pride. We are proud people for our land. We are proud people for mastering our own energy future as you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexandros. Next speaker, Anna Godjuk.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Goyak from Hungary. I come representing a non-governmental association called Szatyor Association. We are based in a village in northern Hungary, and our work mainly focuses on non-formal and informal education for young people and sustainability-related projects. the basis of our work is the recognition that the individualistic modern lifestyle that we live today, many of us at least, comes with limitations, especially in the face of climate change and all the relating ecological and economical and social challenges. And our goal is to show people other more collaborative ways of living and to show them how much more resilient we are as a community to these aforementioned challenges. We have a community house with a permacultural garden that is also shown on this picture, where we organize events and trainings, and we also open it up to the community to invite other people's initiatives there. So it kind of acts as a community hub and an exemplary gallery permacultural garden, because in Hungary, the permacultural way of thinking is not very well known yet, and we would like to change that. But regardless of this community house, our impact, I think, is based less on the physical land of the house and more on the people and the communities that that we reach in relation to our work. We provide support. Oh, wait, maybe the next slide. Yeah. So we provide support for local and regional community initiatives by bringing international volunteers through the ESC, the European Solidarity Corps program. And we found that this form of mobility is extremely useful for the community projects, as it gives them more working hands and also fresh ideas and knowledge from the international young people. And it's also very useful for the volunteers because they really get a chance to witness community in action and to get good examples on how to get together and take collective action. And it gives them a lot of hope for the future in these changing and challenging times. And another part of our work, which is maybe less local and more regional. Oh, it's not in it. Okay. This is not the updated slide. But anyway, I will talk shortly about our regional collaborations with international NGOs whose work is similar to ours, because it is very important to us to create a living network with these organizations and to collaborate on projects that also focus on sustainability. One of these projects is the value of waste, which focuses on waste management and the waste reduction mostly. The idea behind it is that waste is not waste until it's wasted. Within this project, we conducted study visits in each other's country to see how the government handles a waste. And also we created a board game for holding workshops for young people to show them the core idea of reduce, reuse, and recycle that is behind waste management. And I think my time is up, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. The third speaker, Claire.
Yeah. Hello, is it working? Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to apologize. I don't have slides at the moment, but I'm still glad to be here to share you what we have in our community. So I will be sharing about my town, my province, my motherland, which is in Basao Mountain Province from the Philippines. It's an upland indigenous community where livelihoods are really tied to agriculture and forest systems, and knowledge is built through long-term interaction with the land, with elders guiding decisions based on observed patterns in weather, soil, and biodiversity. And we have social systems which we call ugugbo, which is we organize labor collectively, reinforcing both productivity and mutual accountability. So just like any of us here, climate change is something that we experience through disruption of what used to be predictable. Seasonal patterns that once guided planting and harvesting are no longer consistent. Rains have become come at the wrong time or not at all, and dry periods extend beyond what has previously been considered as normal. And these shifts in terms of weather patterns affect not only crop yields, but also the timing of collective activities that depend on shared environmental understanding. So our practices like the Ugugbo, which I mentioned earlier, make these changes visible because the system of collective labor relies on coordination, on knowing when land is ready and when work must be done. And when environmental cues become unreliable, coordination becomes more difficult, and the disruption is not only ecological but also social because it really weakens the reciprocity that depend on timing and trust in shared knowledge. So the challenge we face is not only adapting to environmental change, but doing so under conditions that make it harder to sustain our knowledge systems. And young people like me are increasingly distanced from everyday agricultural practices due to education, migration, and economic pressure. And this limits opportunities to learn through direct experience, which is how knowledge is meant to be transmitted. And continuing and passing on this knowledge requires more than preservation. It also requires active negotiation. There is a need to create spaces where the elders and the youth convene and exchange observations, interpret changes together, and knowledge cannot remain fixed when the conditions it responds to are changing. So there is a need to question how institutions engage with traditional knowledge. Recognition alone is not sufficient. Without the support that strengthens community control and ensures that knowledge remains tied to land and practice, there is a big risk of extraction without continuity. So I'll end this by saying that as a young person, I really experienced this as a responsibility that is both practical and political because it involves learning from elders while also observing changes directly and making decisions about how to carry these practices forward. And it is not simply about adaptation, but about determining what can still hold, what needs to shift, and how to do this without losing the foundations of our knowledge system. So what is at stake here is not only the survival of our practices, but the conditions that allow them to exist. Climate change is already altering these conditions, and unless broader structural issues are being addressed, the capacity of communities like our communities to sustain and transmit knowledge will be continued to be undermined. So thank you all.
Thank you. And next speaker is Tri Tuo Lo.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Da. Yeah, just call me Da. And I come from a Thai community in northern Vietnam. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my story. Today, I would like to tell you about my Thai community handicraft tradition. Most of us lives in rural mountainous areas. The livelihoods had long been connected to agriculture, forest resources, and handicraft. Textile were an essential part of our daily life. We use them in ceremonies and everyday lives. These fabrics carry our cultural meanings. They reflect our family identities and our connection to the land and nature. This knowledge has always been passed down through women and elders in the communities from one generation to another through practice and lived experience, not through written document. I'm working with a small communities-based handicraft workshop to revise traditional weaving and natural dyeing practices. Over time, the Okay. Over time, we saw the practices in our community gradually decline or fall down the use in communities. As industries, textile became more widely available and it became harder for us to maintain traditional farming systems. Fewer people continue viewing and dyeing. In some villages, the practices had disappeared. When we began this work, we realized that much of indigenous knowledge had already lost. So we work closely with elders who are the knowledge holders from different areas in our Thai communities, including the remote communities where these traditions are still alive. From them, we learn how to identify plants, prepare natural dye techniques, and view techniques. Also, we know the meaning of patterns, motif on our textile. This knowledge, by applying this knowledge, we have been able to create livelihoods for local women, for our villagers. For us, this is very meaningful because it allows women, our Thai women can earn income while continuing cultural, preserve the culture and the tradition. At the same time, we are experiencing the impact of climate change. Actually, climate change, this term itself is not always used. Like many villagers, they don't know what climate change is, but we clearly observe the seasons are becoming less predictable. The knowledge when to plant the cotton or natural dye plants is no longer work in the same ways as before. Yeah, and from our life experience, we see longer rainy periods, fewer sunny days, and more unpredictable weather. This change directly affects on our work. And for example, the drought make it difficult for us to harvest the plant, the material. And without enough sunlight, we cannot work. And in response, we are developing community-led solution. For example, we are planting the dye garden and to have a more control over materials. So we don't need to go to the jungle or forest to harvest them. We can take it in our garden. And we also experimenting combining traditional knowledge with new ideas while continue to learn from elder people in the communities. Through this process, we see traditional knowledge is not something from the past. It is something living, something can adapt. And for us, this work is not about resilience, environment, not only works, it's about like protect the environments, our cultures, and for economic. I would like to end with a reflection that guides our works. Our knowledge had keep our communities alive for generations. Today, we use it not only for survive in nature, but to remember who we are and create livelihoods in a changing world. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Tidam. And the last speaker of our sharing circle, Yodgor Kononov.
Thank you very much. Salam alaikum. Ruz bakhair bosad. Hello, everybody, my brothers and sisters. I am Yodgor Konunov. I'm represent the Pamiri indigenous people, Tajikistan. I'm sure that everybody of you knows where is the Pamir Plateau. It's in the higher mountain area. The altitude is from 2,000 up to 7,495 meters. And today I will share with you two history. The story, it is almost the same. Everybody of you from yesterday, they shared the success story, the story about the pasture management, the livestock, the forest, but I'm talking about the conservation of wheat. As I already mentioned, higher altitude communities in Gubao rely on agriculture but face harsh climate and increasing variability. Building on indigenous and traditional knowledge, the initiative promotes climate resilience and organic farmer system, strengthening resilience and supporting self-reliant local food system. The quote of my presentation: indigenous knowledge is a proven solution for climate change mitigation. It is, sorry, yeah. Indigenous practice function as a nature-based solution. Mountain farmers use local seed variety that are naturally adapted to cold and dry conditions. They combine crops and livestock, improve soil fertility, and apply simple but effective soil and water conservation practices. This system relies on low external input, making them sustainable and accessible. So there is two case study. The first is about the man. His name is Kanawat Shaw, and he is the member of community seed system. Community seed banks conserving local climate resilient variety. In Bartang Valley of Gubao, Tajikistan, where harsh conditions limit agriculture, farmers relied on traditional knowledge to sustain food production. Qanat Shaw, a member of a community seed bank, cultivates different local wheat varieties each year on his plot adapted to remote mountain conditions. By continuously selecting and conserving these seeds, he contributes to biodiversity, strengthen the local seeds system, and ensure crops remain resilient to climate change. So the second is, as you see, the ladies, she's from the other village, which called Bartang Valley. Farmers rely on traditional knowledge to cope harsh climate and limited market access. Climate change has increased pest and diseases pressure, creating new challenges for farmers. Zuro, a member of VTG, Village Technology Group Raumed, improve legumes production using locally adapted variety and expanded bean cultivation in higher, cooler areas to reduce this risk. By improving seed selection and applying sustainable practices, Zuro increased yields, preserved local genetic resources, and supplied quality seeds to other farmers, strengthening the community seed system and reducing dependence on external inputs. These works demonstrate a nature-based solution that enhance soil fertility, biodiversity, and climate resilience while supporting rural livelihood. Thank you very much. I'm finished it here. Yeah.
Dear speakers, we hadn't time for reflections because we take time from our lunch break. And now before we go to the lunch break, I remember please about our participation in the Climate Week activities. Today is the regional NAP Expo. Maybe we have. And it will be in Burana Hall in Venezia Hotel, and financing implementation of the Belém Gender Action Plan at the national level. It will be in Grand Hall, And thank you for all participants, and I thanks to our speakers of this. And last comment from the Secretariat.
Hello, everyone, the knowledge holders. Just a quick housekeeping announcement. So in addition to this afternoon session, tomorrow morning, there will be engagement opportunities as we have communicated with you via email. We also sent you a calendar invite. So please do participate in the events that we've sent you calendar invite with the content details. If you have any questions, do approach to us. We will resume the sessions of the bi-regional gathering in the SIM hall where we had the meeting on day one, the grand hall, tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. So tomorrow morning, we see you at the event, and then tomorrow afternoon, we resume the bi-regional gathering. And here, my colleagues have projected the names, so please do participate at those respective events on time, and then we will see you tomorrow at 2. Thanks so much.
Thank you, and see you tomorrow on our bi-regional gathering.